Hello, how is everybody today? This is Chris coming from Houston, or Nacogdoches right now, and I wanted to sit here and give you that theory that I promised you a couple of videos ago. Um, First of all, before I get started, just to let you know, I have no say in anything like that, in any of these bigger companies, so therefore a lot of what I'm saying is through evidence or lack of evidence, I guess you can say. The lack of facts and the lack of, and the current actions of Zuffa, UFC, and Dana White. And the words Dana White says between his words fuck, 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 and fuck. That's his favorite word, it seems. Um, this is my theory on why I think Zuffa, UFC, and Dana White are trying to discredit Pride through shady means, not by having the best fight the best and see what happens. Now, I understand, Shogun just lost, and there's no excuse behind that. None. Crow Cop lost. No excuse behind it. None. Uh, okay, those are valid excuses. I said before why I think Crow Cop and why I think Shogun lost. And I think it's pretty fishy that after having acquired Pride in May, that the UFC has yet to bring over any other big name fighters. They brought over Vanderlei, they brought over Shogun, and they brought over Crow Cop. And Crow Cop they didn't even bring over. He was already over before Pride was acquired. So actually they brought over Shogun and Vanderlei. There's a whole list of fighters they could have brought over, and I don't think they want to bring them over. I don't think they want Pride fighters coming in and doing like Anderson Silva did, who wasn't a Pride fighter, he was more of a Shuto fighter, but still, he fought in Pride several times. A couple of examples that I'm gonna give you a lot of examples, but let's just get started, jump in head first, and bring up the first example. Joaquim Hellboy Hansen. He is currently under contract from the UFC. His contract was transferred from DSE to the to Zuffa, and I believe his contract. I don't know the details. I think Mio Dread Mike would know better than I would, since he's a huge Hellboy fan. I think it's $15,000 a fight. $15,000 a fight, where they're paying $30,000 or $40,000 for Marcus Aurelio, who's nowhere near as talented as Hellboy, and probably I think Hellboy would transition way better into a cage than Marcus would. They're not willing to pay him. They want him to take a half a pay cut. They want him to go down, I think, to 7,500 a fight, which I don't blame him for taking. I wouldn't blame him to shove it up their ass. I don't blame him for that. So basically, they're making him wait it out. They're saying if you're not going to take this cut and pay, then you're not fighting for the UFC. So he's sitting over there in Denmark right now doing nothing. Uh, I think it's really funny how the UFC hasn't brought a lot of the lightweights over. I mean, their lightweight division in the UFC, don't let them fool you and say that it's really stacked. It's not. I mean, they've got maybe 5 really good lightweights that would compare in the world rankings. The rest, not. I mean, any division where Melvin Gilliard would be considered a top 10 in the division at one point in time should not be considered stacked. I mean, I like Melvin Gilliard. No, actually, I don't like him that much, but still, I think he's a talented guy. But after the first round, I think that talent goes out the door, and I think all you got to do is take him to the ground, and he's nowhere near as deadly or even half as skilled. But yeah, like I said, they don't have Hellboy Hansen. They haven't even tried to acquire Kawajiri, which I heard he was interested. They haven't tried to bring in Ishida. They haven't tried to bring in Gomi. They haven't tried to bring in Aoki. Those are 5 of world-class lightweights that could make it. I'm pretty sure Gomi could make it down to 155. I'm pretty sure they all could all make it down to 155. They might not. They might have to make it to 170. But either way, these are world-class fighters that they're not there. I know for a fact Aoki says he wants to fight in the UFC because he said it in an interview on Real Fighter magazine. I believe that's what it was. It was an MMA magazine. I'm pretty sure it was Real Fighter, and he basically said, "Yeah, I would like to come to the UFC, and I'll go in lightweight division if I had to." A couple of other things. They have Paulo Filo. That's one of the other Pride fighters they have signed with them. Probably one of the most talented middleweights in the world, undefeated, has beaten some really good competition. I mean, he's kind of a lay in prayer, but he's also got a great ground and pound and a great submission game. Would be great in the cage. Hasn't proven that great so far in the cage in his one fight against Dorkson, but they have him in the WEC. That's their minor leagues. That's their AAA. why in the hell is a guy that, to be honest, should have won the middleweight Grand Prix? He pulled out because he doesn't have much heart, but still, with his talent wise, should have won the Grand Prix. But they said that they want him in the WEC. It doesn't make much sense to me. Dennis Kang, one of the best middleweights in America right now. I mean, it showed great potential in the middleweight Grand Prix, not in the UFC. And actually, what they said is he wasn't UFC material. The UFC that has such fighters as Caleb Starnes, Sean Salmon, Alan Belcher, and Justin McCulley say that Dennis Kang is not UFC material. It's a little strange, a little weird. A couple of other guys that I think they haven't tried to get Arona. Now that we're hearing that he's gone to M1, maybe it was a price thing. I don't know, but I think Arona is still top 10 material for the light heavyweight division. And with the way their light heavyweight division now, they need more talent in there. They need to build fights. I mean, Jesus Christ, the guy. I mean, he's a lay in prayer, true, but so is Tito. And he knows how to get Dennis King. I think not Dennis King. I'm sorry, Ricardo Arona. Too many names in my head going on around now. Ricardo Arona is one of the best light heavyweights in the world, and he should be in the UFC if they want to claim that they get the best. I don't know why he wasn't. Maybe it was a money thing. Who knows? Dan Henderson. What they're saying is they want to keep Dan Henderson at 205, and Dan Henderson wants to stay at 205. I'm not real sure. Maybe he does want to stay at 205. I don't think he should be at 205. I think he defended his belt. He lost his belt to Rampage, which I thought he was going to because he was going against a guy with not as good wrestling skill, but is way bigger than him. And that's going to be a problem he's going to see a lot. Guys way bigger than him. And it's just going to be a big problem with him. The dude is a natural 185er. He should not be at 205. And they want him to fight all their big guys at 185. I went at 205. I think that's pretty funny. I think the UFC is actually encouraging him to stay at 205 and saying, we want you to stay at 205. And he said, okay, well, I'll stay at 205 if that's where you want. And I think they want him to basically get owned by Tito, get owned, by these bigger guys that are just going to keep their weight on him because it's going to get ugly. It's going to get really ugly. And they're basically going to say, well, this guy's their champion. Look how easily the UFC guys have beaten him so far. I think it's pretty funny how in the heavyweight division, they have a lot of good heavyweights in Pride, or they had a lot of good heavyweights in Pride, and the only guy that they've gotten was Big Nog. That's another name I forgot to add in there. I'm sorry. But yeah, Big Nog. They've signed him. But they've had one fight. That's fine. They haven't tried to get Barnett. They tried to get Fedor, which I already gone over what happened there. I mean, Jesus Christ, come on. Are you telling me Vegeta can't be a good enough can for y'all? I mean, I think he could. I didn't think Vegeta in their heavyweight division right now. The heavyweight division looks like shit, and they're not bringing over any of the heavyweights they have over in Pride. I think it's pretty fishy. This is, like I said, a very rough theory, and that's my evidence so far, That's my lack of evidence. I think the UFC is not going out of their way to get a lot of the top talent from Pride. I think they're letting them go to K1. I think they're letting them go to M1. I think they're letting them go to, Icon and Elite XC. I think they're letting them do all that because they don't want their fighters embarrassed. They want to embarrass the other guys. That's why they're making the talented fighters out there wait, like, Hansen, like Kawajiri, who I've been told or I've read repeatedly that he's just sitting by the phone waiting for the UFC to call. So that's my theory. I'm about to run out of time here. I'm not real sure. Maybe it's bad, maybe it's good, but that's my theory. All right, hope y'all like it. Later.